same. So we learned how to bend them with a lot of work. Boiling water, steam, and we create our own bends.
Well, sorry, just go back to Dan's question. They would trail ahead of the weights and the bait on the line to make the bait look like it's swimming.
Yeah. They had constant movement. And how they moved, that's why we had our own bends on them, because they would move differently in the water because when you look at like the small shrimp and stuff and different things that the fish used to feed on in the water, they all move differently. You'd want them to move like herring, you'd want them to move like the small little green shrimp and stuff like that. So you'd have these bends on them and they would make them move differently. They'd go around and they would zigzag and they would do all sorts of things. You know, they would move differently. And like I said, every boat fished differently. Not one of them ever fished the same because of the movement, the vibration, the shape, the style of the boat. They were all different. I think that's why we were also attached to our boats, because everyone had a different kind of personality. And we were attached to our boats because we got to know them. We had to know our boats as good as we knew ourselves, or if not better, because we had to know what they could do and their abilities.
And the different boats would use different types of bends to pull. So if you got a new boat, it was like
start all over again. But a lot of these companies, they developed their own lures, like the spoons. We had number 5 pals were one of our favorite. Cerise spoons. They were small, kind of teardrop shaped. When you went into a commercial fishing store and you saw what was in there, it would be walls and aisles, because you had so many different things that you were fishing for. And everything had its own distinct set of gear, its own, for trolling it was different weights in the purlon that we used. This net here is a river net. I think it's one of my brother's old river sockeye nets. I know when Krista and I were putting it up, it had a hell of a lot of holes in it and rips in it. It had seen a lot of good fishing.
And how are the river nets different from the ocean nets?
They're colors. They're colors. You have water, like in the north, our nets were a lot darker green. When we got down to the Fraser River, because of the color in the river, this was what my brother would fish at the mouth of the river, what we fished there, in this color.
Length different too?
Yeah.
The depth?
Well, they were all standard 200 fathom long and approximately 30 feet deep, but the mesh was all different sizes. Mesh you'd use a bigger mesh in the fall when you were fishing for chum. You'd have a different size net for sockeye, and they were expensive. And that's where Gulf and Fraser came in, because a net on lines, minimum price has always been anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. And back in the day when we were all fishing, we'd have to have 3 or 4 different nets, because we'd start from here and we'd go all the way up to just about the Alaska border and back. And when you were gill netting, you're in different types of water all along the way. So it was expensive. It was really expensive. And you know, you get one big payout at Christmas, you know, when you log all your fish with the company and you get paid out at Christmas time.
And that's when you paid off the loan she was talking
And what
about.
about net mending? A couple of stories at least a couple of the stories talk about.
Yeah.
Did you mend it?
It works as net mending.
Yeah, I did, but I hated it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like knitting for me. I could tie myself up quicker than could be with gill nets. Did you guys?
I did.
We did. I did different tasks, so I never did the whole thing, but I would do different parts of it. There was always nets in our driveway. My dad was always out. My mom, when she was left,
That would throw everybody right
said,
off.
when you were little kids, whenever you picked up something with your left hand, I'd hit your hand. He wanted us to all be right-handed so he could show us how to mend nets.
And that's interesting for the left-handed person to just...
Yeah, because he'd have to try to explain it completely backwards.
Oh.
It would fish different too. Well, no, it wouldn't. You would do the same thing, but
the tensions would be different.
Yeah.
I think retention might be a little different, because if you're learning from a right-handed person and you're doing it left-handed, I would assume that the tensions would be a bit different. Because when you hung in a gill net, you hung it in to make it fish for you. It wasn't just going out there and dropping a net. You had to make that net fish. And that was in...
Make a net fish.
It was in the hanging of it, how you hung it. See, this is a hanging bench here, this green thing. And you'll see these up here, these two pieces, they're adjustable. And you'd have your cork line and your mesh. And sometimes you had, what was that line that was open? Not the lead line, at the top, so fish could go through the top of the net instead of having your net hung right to, because some people hung it right to the cork line, to the mesh, and then some people put in this kind of safety strip type thing, and that would help the net fish too, because this had to be moving all the time. Your web was always moving, and you would hang it in. Sometimes some were 5 meshes to 1, stuff like that. I can't remember how. Last time I did one was a herring net in 1978.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. After that, I said, well, goddamn, why am I touching another net? I'm a troller. I'll tie gear. I can.
We used to sit in front of the TV and load the needles up. Do you have any of the needles? Any needles?
I have them. They're in my box
Oh, okay.
because they're part of the show.
That was our thing that we used to have to do.
That was always the kids' job, was
Yes,
to
it
load
was.
the needles. Yeah.
They also hired people, like in the middle of the